For more analysis on this, David Otto is a defense and counter terrorism specialist on Africa, and he joins us live now from Abidjan in Ivory Coast. Clearly, David, there are intelligence challenges working in these dynamic situations. But what would you say is the main problem here? Is it trigger-happy soldiers, poor military command and control? What would you say?
I think it's multiple. You've got to look at it also from the point of view that the Nigerian military is also facing an insurgency that embeds itself within local population. But notwithstanding, I mean, of course, one has to take into consideration that should there be enough intelligence that points to the fact that a specific targeted location houses civilians. Now, that normally should be enough reason why the military or the Air Force should call off any operations. But usually, this is where the challenge, for the Nigerian military has always been that, sometimes they don't get the right information. Sometimes the intelligence is wrong. Sometimes the location is not properly verified, to ensure that there is a civilian population within that particular location, and this again is a huge challenge, especially when confronted with an insurgency of this nature. But more needs to be done, to avert these kind of scenarios, because clearly it backfires in terms of the morale of the population in providing some vital information to the military that could essentially lead to their own dissemination.
Yeah, and I guess given what you're saying then, more broadly, are these operations, these airstrikes, actually that useful then in targeting these militant insurgent groups like Boko Haram? Or do you think they should be scrapped or replaced with some kind of other method?
From a military point, from a city or counterterrorism perspective, you cannot eliminate a specific tactic on the basis of some of the challenges that you do face. One has to, be very mindful of the fact that, civilians, have been killed here, and this is a critical issue. But I think what the military needs to do, or what the Air Force needs to do, is to ensure that it carry out, a very detailed intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance mission, and make sure it cross-verifies information, from a source. I mean, I'm talking about very credible sources before it launches any airstrikes. It's not something that could be taken out of the equation totally due to the terrain that the military, faces within that particular region. We are talking about the northeast, perhaps also the northwest part of Nigeria. So it's not that the military should not use airstrikes anymore. I think it's that, it should be used in a much more careful, and some kind of, precise military precision strikes that make sure that they eliminate the possibility of targeting civilians.
Okay, so don't get rid of airstrikes, just do them better, if you like. And I suppose what you were saying there earlier about the risk that if you keep getting it wrong, you might be pushing these civilians in these rural areas straight into the arms of militant groups and encouraging them perhaps even to join them if the strikes are wrong, if indeed there seems to be no accountability for when there are these terrible mistakes.
Of course, one of the reasons why some people, could be much more, they want to lean towards terrorist organizations, why they are quite key to, join some of these armed bandits is just to revenge, some kind of vengeance. And this vengeance could come in scenarios where they believe that, enough care has not been taken by the Air Force or the Nigerian military in ensuring that, they limit the amount of casualties from civilians, and this could somehow act as a push factor. So it is in the interest of the Nigerian security architecture, to make sure that, strikes are clinical, to ensure that there is enough information and intelligence that leads to the elimination of any civilian casualty. Now, this is not going to be something that you can achieve 100%, again, due to the behavior of criminal groups, within that location. So the question now is how much damage can you take from the population or from targeting civilians? And I think, if this is happening quite often, as it does, then the military risk losing the very people that it relies on for intelligence.
Absolutely fascinating stuff. David, Otto, thank you so much for joining us on the News Hour here on TRT World.